Peace family, what's up? It's in the God, it's in the star constellation. Yeah, I gotta check this out. North Korea has yet again launched and tested some missiles. After worldly pressure and the US pressure and China's pressure and South Korea's pressure, North Korea has tested yet some more nuclear missiles. Well shit, I wouldn't blame you. That's the only way to defend yourself in this world. Stop yawning. Gosh. That's the only way to defend yourself in this world. This world, every other country has missiles and has nuclear missiles too. Every other worldly power, that is. So they're trying to claim their spot and have worldly power. And the other worldly powers don't want that. That's why you're seeing so much pressure and all the attention on this little country. That's why they're trying to paint it as a regime and a communist dictatorship. Y'all just watch and hear this leftist fake news.
We turn now to Robert Manning, a senior fellow at Atlantic Council. Um, what do you know? What's the latest that you know about this? We know that the missile, Yonhap News Service is saying that the missile exploded within seconds of the flight, that it went perhaps just a couple miles. Nonetheless, it's disconcerting, as we were just talking about with Mr. Chang, that they continue to test this system even in the face of American anger. Well, what's your response to that? Do you have any of the latest information on this? Do you know anything more than we know, that it was basically a failed test that only lasted a few seconds?
It sounds like another failed test. The interesting question is whether our cyber talents had anything to do with it. But I think you have to put this in context. They're trying to develop an ICBM capability and a series of missiles with various ranges. The only way you can find out, if it works, the physics are complicated, is to test it. So they're going to continue to test it, test these weapons. And I think that the challenge is, can we get them to the negotiating table and halt this activity before they get an ICBM?
So as you can see, United States is very, very scared and in fear of North Korea getting nuclear capabilities. And so is the rest of the world. They don't want any world powers. They want to be the only one in control. They don't want nobody to bring down the globalist regime. They want to control all the economics and worldly powers. They don't want North Korea developing nuclear weapons and becoming a worldly power and a threat to the rest of their society that they're created. So, they're basically trying to push North Korea's back against the wall.
I think that's what's driving Trump's North Korea policy and a sense of urgency right now.
Well, there's a sense of urgency, but there also is, we were just talking about a few minutes ago, there's also somewhat of mixed signals as whether they want them at the negotiating table or they want to basically say you have to behave yourself at the threat of military action. And I think Kim Jong-un has proven himself to not be very responsive to those threats.
No, they see themselves as a nuclear weapon state similar to Pakistan. And they want to be acknowledged for that. That's something the world and the U.S. especially is not prepared to do. That's why we have sanctions on them. But military action, I would trust that the Trump administration understands that North Korea is not Syria, and that the chances of an escalating activity. I mean, they have thousands of fixed artillery sites within range of Greater Seoul, where you have 25 million people, probably on any given day 80,000 Americans, and they could wreak enormous damage in just a matter of hours. And they already have the capability with the No-Dong missiles to hit U.S. Military bases in Korea and Japan with nuclear weapons. So I think we have a state of mutual deterrence that people are uncomfortable with and don't want to admit, but that's the reality.
Exactly. Admit the reality. Just admit it. And U.S., you're gonna have to let North Korea stretch his arms out. You're not gonna cram him in this one spot. Like, admit that North Korea is becoming a world power. Admit that they have some power and that they could do some damage to your troops and to your imperialistic pressures around their side of their ecosystem and their matrix. They could do some damage and they could let some stuff loose. So just stop your imperialistic narcissism and just let them be them.
Reports that Pyongyang has made a statement that war is imminent. They are given to fits of hyperbole at time, we know that. But what do you think the chances of a preemptory strike by North Korea into the South is?
No, I think the only redeeming feature of North Korea is that they're not suicidal. And all their behavior is based on trying to figure out how to keep the regime surviving. So the only instance I could imagine them launching any kind of serious preemptive strike is if they perceived that the U.S. was coming after them and that they had nothing to lose. Other than that, I think deterrence more or less works. It's worked for the last 50 years, and I don't think it's fundamentally changed, although there's a debate about once they achieve an ICBM whether it does change.
Yeah. Well, they have to know that in the event of war, the regime is over, don't you think?
That's precisely my point. That if they launch an attack, they're gone. Korea's reunified by force under Seoul's auspices and their history, and they know that. And I hope that the administration understands the risks of accidental escalation and so on. You know, they've done a lot of provocative acts.
Yeah, blah 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 blah. I'm finna regurgitate this left news bullshit. So basically, what can I extract from this? The rest of the world is trying to punk North Korea from becoming a nuclear power. They can't jump in immediately because North Korea can still pack a very big first punch. That'll be very detrimental to that side of the world. And China and Japan is within its reaches. So yes, that could be very detrimental to the U.S. health and the U.S. allies' health. And not only that, North Korea knows that its back's against the wall, and North Korea knows that if it strikes first, its regime will be completely destroyed, teared down, obliterated, and reunited, and become a democracies combined with South Korea that we do not want to happen. I mean, that they do not want to happen. They obviously don't want U.S. helping them at all. So they're kind of in a deadlock. But I agree with them. Continue to test your missiles if you choose to do that as your country, because every country has a right to express its military powers. Okay? But I'm not a terrorist. I do not support North Korea. I do not want North Korea attacking nobody with nuclear bombs. I am not one for that, okay? And I do not partake in any of that doing at all.